Spices seem harmless, just a dash of flavor. But for seniors, hidden dangers lurk in those familiar jars. Lead-contaminated turmeric, Salmonella-tainted cumin, undeclared allergens triggering deadly reactions. Your spice rack could be a silent health hazard. Today, we expose 9 Canadian spice brands to avoid and the 2 actually worth your trust. Coming in at number 9, we have Clubhouse by McCormick. Clubhouse has been a staple in Canadian kitchens for generations. The familiar red-capped bottles sit in nearly every pantry across the country. Your grandmother used them. Your mother used them. They promise premium quality and authentic flavor. But here is the truth they do not advertise. In recent years, McCormick, the parent company behind Clubhouse, has faced multiple recalls affecting Canadian consumers. Contamination issues have ranged from salmonella in ground black pepper to undeclared allergens hiding in spice blends. For seniors managing multiple health conditions, an unexpected allergic reaction can mean a trip to the emergency room. Or worse, the betrayal runs deeper. Clubhouse markets itself as a trusted household name, yet independent testing has revealed troubling inconsistencies. Some batches of imported spices showed elevated levels of heavy metals, including lead and arsenic. These are not ingredients listed on any label. They accumulate silently in your body over years of use. Every shake of that familiar jar adds to a toxic burden your doctor cannot see on routine blood work. For seniors already dealing with kidney strain or taking blood pressure medications, heavy metal exposure is not a minor concern. Your kidneys work overtime to filter these toxins. When they are already compromised, the burden becomes dangerous. Lead exposure has been linked to cognitive decline, high blood pressure spikes, and cardiovascular complications. Exactly the risks seniors cannot afford to take. The jars look clean. The branding feels familiar. But familiarity does not equal safety. Clubhouse has built decades of trust, yet recent evidence suggests that trust may be misplaced. The spices you have been shaking into your soups and stews could be carrying invisible contaminants that no amount of cooking will destroy. Heat kills bacteria, but lead stays forever. And here is what most people never realize. Spice contamination often goes undetected because symptoms mimic other conditions. Fatigue, headaches, digestive upset, brain fog. Seniors chalk these up to aging when the real culprit might be sitting in their spice cabinet. The promise was flavor and quality. The reality is uncertainty and risk. At number 8, we have no-name brand spices from Loblaws. No Name built its reputation on one thing: affordability. Those bright yellow labels promise the same quality as name brands at a fraction of the price. For seniors living on fixed incomes, the savings seem too good to pass up. $1 saved here, 50 cents there. It adds up. But what exactly are you saving? And what are you sacrificing? The generic spice market operates on razor-thin margins. To keep prices low, corners get cut somewhere. Independent investigations into budget spice brands have uncovered alarming findings: bulking agents, fillers, and in some cases, outright adulteration. That turmeric might contain lead chromate to boost its golden color. That paprika might be stretched with brick dust or sawdust to increase volume. These are not theoretical concerns. They are documented realities in the global spice trade. Health Canada has issued warnings about adulterated spices entering the Canadian market. And budget brands face the highest risk. The supply chains are murky. The sourcing is opaque. When you buy no-name spices, you are trusting a complex global network with minimal oversight. Spices that pass through 3 countries before reaching your kitchen. Middlemen who never see the product they trade. And your health is the gamble. For seniors managing diabetes, the hidden fillers in adulterated spices can cause unexpected blood sugar fluctuations. Your careful meal planning sabotaged by invisible additives. For those on blood thinners, undisclosed ingredients can interfere with medication effectiveness. The label says cumin, but what else is in that jar? The honest answer is you cannot be certain. Consumer complaints about no-name spices paint a troubling picture. Reports of off smells, unusual textures, and spices that taste nothing like they should. One reviewer described opening a jar of cinnamon that smelled like cardboard and chemicals. Another found strange clumps and discoloration in supposedly fresh ground pepper. These are not quality products having a bad day. These are warning signs of systemic problems in the supply chain. The savings seem attractive until you calculate the true cost. Medical bills from contamination, wasted meals from flavorless spices, the slow accumulation of heavy metals in organs, already working hard to keep you healthy. No name promises value, The reality may be a false economy that costs you far more than you ever saved. If this helps you stay safer at the store, hit subscribe. It is free and it means you will never miss these exposés. Most people have no idea how to spot contaminated spices before it is too late, but there is a way to protect yourself, and we will break it down at the very end of this video. Stay with us. Now at number 7, we have President's Choice Spices. President's Choice positions itself as the premium store brand. Better than generic, almost as good as gourmet. The packaging is sleeker. The marketing is sophisticated. Those cursive fonts and elegant color schemes. Loblaws wants you to believe PC Spices deliver quality without the premium price tag. But the reality behind those polished labels tells a different story. PC Spices share supply chains with budget brands, including the same overseas processors and distributors that have been flagged for contamination issues. The difference is primarily in marketing and packaging, not necessarily in safety standards or quality control. You are paying for branding, not better ingredients. That premium feeling is manufactured by graphic designers, not quality control experts. Recent CFIA recalls have included President's Choice products for undeclared allergens, a potentially fatal oversight for seniors with food sensitivities, mustard hidden in a spice blend, milk powder in a seasoning mix. These are not minor labeling errors. For someone with a severe allergy, they are life-threatening mistakes, the kind that sends you to the hospital before you finish dinner. The inspection reports paint a concerning picture. Some PC Spice products tested showed bacterial counts higher than acceptable thresholds. Cross-contamination risks at processing facilities mean your garlic powder might have traces of nuts, soy, or wheat, none of which appear on the ingredient list. For seniors managing multiple dietary restrictions, this is a minefield. One wrong step and you are dealing with a reaction you never saw coming. And then there is the sodium issue. Many PC seasoning blends marketed as flavor enhancers are secretly sodium bombs. 1 tablespoon of certain blends contains nearly a quarter of the daily recommended sodium intake for someone with high blood pressure. The front of the package promises bold taste. The nutrition panel, if you can read the tiny print, reveals a cardiovascular risk. Seniors trust President's Choice because Loblaws has cultivated that trust over decades. But trust should be earned through transparency and safety, not marketing budgets. Number 6 brings us to Bulk Barn Spices. Bulk Barn appeals to the practical shopper. Buy only what you need. Reduce waste. Save money. The concept seems sensible, especially for seniors who cook smaller portions and want variety without committing to full-size jars. Why buy an entire container of cardamom when you only need a teaspoon? But the bulk model carries risks that the cheerful store atmosphere obscures. Open bins of spices sit exposed to the environment all day. Customers reach in with scoops, sometimes after touching their faces, phones, or wallets. Children run their hands through the bins while parents browse. The potential for cross-contamination is not theoretical. It is inevitable. Health inspectors have flagged bulk food retailers repeatedly for inadequate sanitation protocols and contamination risks. For seniors with compromised immune systems, and most adults over 65 have some degree of immune decline, this exposure is serious. A healthy 30-year-old might shake off a mild bacterial contamination with a day of discomfort. A senior on immunosuppressant medications for arthritis or an autoimmune condition faces a much graver risk. What seems like a stomach bug could become a hospitalization. A minor infection could turn systemic. The freshness claims do not hold up under scrutiny either. Bulk spices have unknown shelf lives. How long has that cumin been sitting in the bin? When was it last rotated? The staff cannot tell you because the tracking systems do not exist. You might be buying spices that lost their potency and their safety weeks or months ago, paying full price for stale product that barely flavors your food. Moisture is another enemy. Canadian humidity, especially in summer months, can cause spices in open bins to clump, degrade, and develop mold. That mold is not always visible to the naked eye. Aflatoxins, toxic compounds produced by certain molds, are linked to liver damage and cancer. They are colorless and odorless. You cannot smell them. You cannot see them. But your liver will feel the effects over years of exposure. Bulk Barn promises freshness and value. The reality is an uncontrolled environment where contamination risks multiply with every customer who reaches into those bins. Why do you think the CFIA lets brands use ingredients and practices that would never be allowed in European markets? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think is really going on. At number 5, we have Compliments brand spices from Sobeys. Compliments is Sobeys' house brand, positioned as affordable quality for everyday cooking. The bright packaging promises flavor and value, cheerful designs that suggest homemade meals and family gatherings. But like other store brands, Compliments Spices share the murky supply chains that have become the industry's dirty secret. Sobeys has faced its share of recall notices affecting Compliments products, bacterial contamination, undeclared allergens, mislabeled ingredients. Each recall represents a failure in quality control that reached consumers before anyone caught the problem. The products sat on shelves. People bought them. They used them in family meals. How many contaminated products made it through without detection? The honest answer is unknowable, and that should terrify you. For seniors, the specific risks are pronounced. Compliments seasoning blends often contain maltodextrin, a filler that spikes blood sugar rapidly. Diabetic seniors reaching for a simple spice blend might unknowingly destabilize their glucose levels. Your careful diet undermined by a hidden ingredient. Anti-caking agents are another hidden concern. Many Compliments spices contain silicon dioxide or calcium silicate to prevent clumping. While generally recognized as safe in small amounts, cumulative exposure across multiple products adds up. Seniors already taking numerous medications put additional strain on kidneys tasked with filtering these additives. The taste complaints are revealing. Consumer reviews frequently mention Compliments spices tasting flat, stale, or simply off. When spices lack flavor, the temptation is to use more, which means more sodium, more additives, more unknown contaminants with every shake. You end up consuming larger quantities of a product that may have been compromised from the start. Compliments promises to complement your cooking. The reality is a budget brand cutting costs in ways that ultimately cost you. Coming in at number 4, Great Value Spices from Walmart. Great Value is Walmart's flagship store brand, and it dominates the budget spice market through sheer volume and price competition. Those low prices attract budget-conscious shoppers, including many seniors stretching retirement dollars. When every penny counts, the price difference between Great Value and name brands feels significant. But Walmart's relentless cost-cutting creates conditions where quality and safety become secondary concerns. The supply chain for Great Value spices spans continents, with sourcing from regions where food safety standards differ dramatically from Canadian expectations. Spices from South Asia and Central America, common sources for Great Value products, have repeatedly tested positive for heavy metals, pesticide residues, and bacterial contamination in independent laboratory analysis. The savings on your receipt may translate to toxins in your food. Independent testing of budget spice brands revealed disturbing findings. Some turmeric samples contained lead levels exceeding safe thresholds by significant margins. We are not talking about trace amounts. We are talking about levels that regulatory bodies consider dangerous. Lead is particularly dangerous for seniors. It accumulates in bones and soft tissues over decades. It contributes to cognitive decline. It exacerbates cardiovascular problems. Every time you season your food with contaminated turmeric, you are adding to a toxic burden your body cannot easily shed. Great Value spices have appeared in CFIA recall notices for various violations. Undeclared milk ingredients, potential salmonella contamination, labeling failures that put allergic consumers at risk. Each recall is a system failure that reached store shelves and Canadian kitchens before detection. The quality variance is striking. Consumer complaints describe Great Value spices as inconsistent at best and rancid at worst. One batch of oregano might be acceptable. The next might smell like dust and taste like nothing. This inconsistency is not random. It reflects supply chains prioritizing cost over quality control at every step. Stick around. At the very end, we will show you exactly what to look for on spice labels that most people completely miss. The answer could change how you shop forever. Number 3 is Selection brand spices from Metro. Selection is Metro's house brand, competing for the same budget-conscious shoppers as other grocery store labels. The marketing suggests quality at a value price, reassuring packaging design, familiar grocery store branding. But Selection spices share the same fundamental problems plaguing the entire store brand spice industry: opaque sourcing, minimal quality control, supply chains optimized for cost rather than safety. Metro has issued recalls affecting Selection products, including spices with undeclared allergens and contamination concerns. For seniors managing complex health conditions and multiple medications, these failures are not minor inconveniences. An undeclared allergen can trigger anaphylaxis. A bacterial contaminant can cause days of illness that a younger person might weather. but that leaves a senior dangerously weakened. Dehydration from vomiting, electrolyte imbalances, hospital stays that lead to further complications. The sodium content in selection seasoning blends deserves special attention. Many blends list salt as the first or second ingredient. That means salt makes up more of the product than the actual spices. Seniors with high blood pressure or heart conditions are essentially buying flavored salt marketed as seasoning. The blood pressure spike after a single seasoned meal can be medically significant. Your cardiologist would not approve. Consumer reviews of selection spices reveal a pattern of declining quality. Longtime shoppers report that products they once trusted have changed. Less flavor, more fillers, shorter shelf stability. When a company quietly reformulates to cut costs, they rarely announce it. You simply notice one day that your familiar spices taste different, weaker, wrong. The packaging often obscures the sourcing. Where did these spices originate? Which processing facilities handled them? What testing was performed before they reached Canadian shelves? Selections labels provide minimal information, and that opacity should concern anyone who values knowing what they consume. Ever notice how the same companies that fund heart health studies are the ones selling sodium-loaded seasoning blends? Coincidence? Let me know what you think in the comments. At number 2, we have Badia Spices. Badia positions itself as an ethnic food specialist, offering Latin American and Caribbean spices at competitive prices. The colorful packaging and exotic selections appeal to adventurous cooks, bold flavors from tropical destinations, authentic recipes from warm climates. But Badia has faced serious quality and safety concerns that should give Canadian seniors significant pause. The FDA in the United States has flagged Badia products multiple times for contamination issues, including elevated lead levels in certain spices. These warnings affect products distributed in Canada through North American supply chains. Our markets are deeply interconnected. When American regulators issue alerts, Canadian consumers should pay attention. The same products cross our border every day. Lead contamination in spices is not always accidental. It often results from deliberate adulteration, adding lead-based compounds to enhance color or increase weight. Turmeric is frequently targeted because lead chromate mimics its golden hue while adding profitable weight. The practice is disturbingly common in certain regions of the spice trade. Badia turmeric has been specifically named in contamination concerns. For seniors, lead exposure is cumulative and irreversible. It lodges in bones and organs over decades of exposure. It contributes to hypertension, kidney damage, and cognitive decline. Symptoms often mimic normal aging: forgetfulness, fatigue, weakness, difficulty concentrating. You might blame getting older when the real culprit is in your spice cabinet. Your doctor might adjust medications when the real solution is checking your kitchen. Badia's sourcing practices have faced scrutiny. The company imports from regions with documented food safety challenges and inconsistent regulatory oversight. Without rigorous testing at the Canadian border, and testing capacity is limited, contaminated products enter the market and reach consumers before problems are identified. Consumer complaints about Badia products include off flavors, unusual textures, and spices that do not perform as expected in cooking. These are not just quality issues. They are warning signs of adulteration or contamination. When a spice tastes wrong, something is wrong. And coming in at number 1, Windsor Spices. Windsor Spices has been a Canadian name for generations, evoking images of traditional quality and domestic production. That maple leaf imagery, those reassuring references to Canadian heritage. But the reality behind that Canadian branding is far more complicated and concerning. Despite the Canadian name, many Windsor products rely on imported spices processed overseas before Canadian packaging. The supply chain is global, not local. That paprika may have originated in China, been processed in India, and only received Canadian packaging at the final stage. The Canadian flag on the label tells you where it was packaged, not where safety standards were maintained, not where quality control happened, just where someone put it in a jar with a familiar label. Windsor has appeared in CFIA recall notices, including alerts for undeclared allergens that pose serious risks to sensitive consumers. For seniors managing multiple food allergies or intolerances, these labeling failures can be life-threatening. Anaphylactic reactions require immediate emergency treatment, and seconds matter. A mislabeled spice jar can be the difference between a pleasant meal and a medical crisis, between enjoying dinner with family and a terrifying ambulance ride. The heavy metal concerns affecting the entire spice industry apply to Windsor products as well. Independent testing has revealed that even trusted Canadian brands cannot guarantee freedom from lead, arsenic, or cadmium contamination. These metals accumulate in your system over years of exposure. Seniors, with decades of spice use already behind them, face the highest cumulative burden. Your lifetime of cooking has been building toward this moment of reckoning. Quality control complaints suggest systemic issues. Consumers report Windsor Spices arriving clumped, discolored, or stale. Some batches lack the aromatic punch that fresh spices should deliver. When the product fails basic sensory tests, what does that suggest about the safety tests you cannot perform at home? The Canadian branding creates false confidence. Shoppers assume domestic products meet higher standards, but globalized supply chains mean that assumption is often unfounded. You are trusting a complex international network with your health, based primarily on a maple leaf graphic and familiar packaging. Consider these numbers. A 2021 study found that nearly 15% of spice samples tested from Canadian retailers contained lead levels exceeding safe thresholds. 15%. That means roughly 1 in 7 jars might be contaminated. The same study identified salmonella in close to 7% of samples. For context, salmonella hospitalizes approximately 8,000 Canadians annually, with seniors facing the highest complication rates. Heavy metal exposure contributes to thousands of cases of hypertension, kidney disease, and cognitive decline each year, conditions that disproportionately affect adults over 65. These are not abstract statistics. They represent real health consequences hiding in seemingly innocent spice jars. Now, let us talk about what actually works. We have spent this entire video exposing the risks, the contamination, the adulteration, the supply chain failures that put your health in danger. But we promised solutions, and solutions you will get. The first safe option is Frontier Co-op Organic Spices. Frontier Co-op operates as a member-owned cooperative with transparency at its core. Every spice is traceable to its origin, with rigorous third-party testing for heavy metals, pesticides, and bacterial contamination before any product reaches Canadian shelves. Their organic certification means no synthetic pesticides or additives, just pure, clean spices. What sets Frontier apart is their testing protocol. They screen for lead, arsenic, cadmium, and mercury at levels stricter than regulatory minimums. They test for salmonella and other pathogens at multiple points in the supply chain, not just at the end, throughout the process. For seniors concerned about cumulative toxic burden, this testing provides genuine reassurance rather than marketing promises. The flavor speaks for itself. Frontier spices taste vibrant and fresh because they are vibrant and fresh, properly stored, regularly rotated, and quality controlled at every step. When you open a jar of Frontier turmeric, you smell turmeric. Not chemicals, not mustiness, not nothing. That sensory confirmation reflects the genuine quality underneath. Frontier Co-op products are available at health food stores across Canada and through online retailers. Yes, they cost more than budget brands, but the true cost calculation includes your health. And when you factor in the risks of contaminated alternatives, Frontier represents genuine value. The second recommendation is Simply Organic Spices. Simply Organic operates under strict USDA organic certification with Canadian distribution that maintains those standards. Their sourcing prioritizes relationships with farmers who meet rigorous quality benchmarks, not anonymous commodity markets where safety is secondary to price. They know their farmers. They visit their farms. They verify their practices. Simply Organic conducts comprehensive testing for contaminants including heavy metals and microbial threats. Their processing facilities maintain strict sanitation protocols that minimize cross-contamination risks. For seniors with food allergies, Simply Organic's clear labeling and dedicated processing lines provide confidence that what the label says matches what the jar contains. The difference is evident in use. Simply Organic spices perform consistently, batch after batch, jar after jar. The cinnamon is always aromatic. The cumin is always pungent. The oregano is always vibrant. This consistency reflects quality control that budget brands simply cannot match. Simply Organic products are widely available at Canadian retailers, including Whole Foods, health food stores, and many mainstream grocery chains. The investment in quality pays dividends in both safety and cooking results. What to look for when shopping? First, seek organic certification. Organic spices face additional testing requirements and cannot contain synthetic pesticides that accumulate in your system. Second, look for transparency about sourcing. Companies that proudly disclose their origins have nothing to hide. Third, check for third-party testing certifications. Independent verification means quality claims are verified, not just asserted. Fourth, trust your senses. If a spice smells off, looks discolored, or tastes flat, something is wrong. Do not use it regardless of brand. Your spice cabinet should enhance your cooking, not endanger your health. Subscribe now, and if you are watching on TV, tap your remote so you never get blindsided again.